inches of ice at the end of my driveway that I'm trying to, sprinkling this ice melt on it, the sun, and trying to take a shovel at it, and it's like it laughs at me.
So you need to get one of those flamethrowers.
Ah, yes, yes, or an A bomb.
Yeah, just claymore that shit.
Claymore, 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 dude, that worked out perfect. You did that, and your screen went black.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, like exactly when your thumb went down. That was amazing.
Can I say? Even when I'm not trying, I'm amazing.
Well, I mean, I suppose.
All right.
um, so we're here today
Yes.
to pay homage to my hairline.
Yeah. Which is just disappearing. And the dog is barking at the landscapers.
Well, I
So
have
give
three.
me
They
uno
bark at
second.
nothing. They bark at nothing.
Ripley.
They really nacho phrase. Ruru. Yeah, I'm just still to the dozen viewers that watch this podcast. You know, I'm still here. I hear people. Sounds like Ripley's talking back to you.
Yeah. Oh, Ripley, come here. All right. So he decided to run under the bed. Um. So anyway, I apologize for the dead air, folks.
Um, I came, so going back to it, I came up with like the episode for like best WrestleManias and then bumps, right? I mean, we can talk about bumps, like who took the greatest bumps. I kind of want to focus on a couple wrestlers that took a lot of bumps. Um, but starting off with the WrestleMania, I have my list. I'm hoping you got yours.
I do.
I think a lot of it's gonna come together. Um, I want to.
Yeah.
This is in no particular order. I'm not ranking. I'm just saying, hey, these are probably the top WrestleManias.
And,
Um,
and for the record, this is our opinion. Um, if you have different ones, please add them to
I
the
may
maybe
say
seven
one
people.
WrestleMania is probably the best of all time. I may add that at the end, but as far as these are what my opinion, and I want to start off with WrestleMania 3. Um, that being, Hulk Hogan taking on Andre the Giant. No one's ever lifted Andre off his feet. Hulk Hogan did. That kind of stole the whole, defeated him, got the belt back. You know, Hulkamania was running wild. I believe that was in 85.
Uh,
And if
or
it was in
87. The first one was, I think the first one was in 84 or 85.
okay, so we're talking 80s. I was young. I mean, obviously, I've only seen highlights of that. But just that WrestleMania alone, I think, set a precedence of, of Hulk Hogan gaining momentum in WWF at that time, now. Um, That's all I really can speak on that. No one's ever taken Andre the Giant off his feet until that point. Like, so it kind of almost put like, oh, he can be defeated. You know, Hulk Hogan set that up. So I think that's set up for, big men coming back, coming into the business and not being like this immovable object. Because what was it? They said the irresistible force versus the immovable object
Yeah,
for that.
they definitely that that WrestleMania had two matches that made it. Hogan Andre, and I said it last time we're on, Savage Steamboat.
Savage Steamboat, that was the other one.
Um, I was gonna put WrestleMania 3 on there, but I'm like, I didn't want to be when I wanted to look at the
The
totality
entirety
of
of the card.
WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta look at the
Um,
card as a whole.
and with the history of it, with the history of all the WrestleManias, and because my issue, and I was, knew this, and then I every time I go back and watch WrestleMania or look at the card, um, especially those earlier manias, they'll have two big matches, and the rest is almost kind of
Hey,
filler,
yeah, you got
but
big
like
card matches. Yeah, I mean,
it was kind of just almost a glorified house show at the beginning, um, with
I
all
don't
love and
think they knew
respect.
the direction of what they wanted WrestleMania to be this big spectacular thing. So you had to have those big matches, like you're saying, to draw the crowd in,
Yeah,
right? And then you got okay, we got 3 hours to kill, and these two matches are going to take 45 minutes of it, or something like that. So I mean, obviously, as time goes on, you know, people evolve, talent evolves, right? So it should be getting better. And I agree from WrestleMania 3. If you were talking like WrestleMania from the 80s, 3 would probably be the top just because of like the two matches we just mentioned with Andre versus Hogan and then Steamboat versus Macho, which that match is almost undoubtedly one of the best matches ever to happen ever.
yeah,
Um, so
it,
that's in the way, getting that kind of recognition really speaks volumes, especially for professional wrestling in the 80s because it was gaining momentum then, but it really took off like when it hit like 1990, right? You could speak for this, like the wrestling really took off. WCW really started coming on. Early ECW, in the early 90s started coming on.
but yeah,
Um,
it's like the '80s were definitely the spectacular events, and then as they started building, it was more grounded in the '90s, and then it started building back up to the spectacular. Um, but when I was making my list, you already talked about WrestleMania 3, um, and I wanted to kind of spread out the love. Um, so I made a conscious choice, and I'm glad you put 3 because I was like, do I go WrestleMania 1 or WrestleMania 3? I went with 1 just because it was the first.
Earth One. No, I agree.
Um,
It had to be on, it has to be on there because it had to start somewhere, right? You got Vince McMahon coming over there. This is WrestleMania, however he said it. You know, it had to start, right? And granted, it probably wasn't the greatest show of all time, but it was definitely a starting point and definitely to build off of for years to come. Obviously, we just had WrestleMania 41. So,
yeah,
it's going strong, right? And they've been getting stages have been getting bigger. Now WrestleMania's 2 night event. It's really has evolved.
yeah, and they're
I
they're
didn't
definitely
personally,
leaning into the showmanship of it.
I didn't have WrestleMania 1 on my list. The next earliest WrestleMania I had was WrestleMania 13. Strictly, and you can agree or disagree, for Austin versus Bret Hart. That match stole that show. You had the world title match, and it didn't matter. Um, I believe that was Psycho Sid versus Undertaker, which Undertaker beat him.
Yeah,
Um,
and well, I'll talk about that later. But
But the Austin Bret Hart, because how that rivalry was, and the match, it was supposed to be a submission match, I believe,
or an I quit match, something
or
like
not
that.
something like that. And Austin didn't quit, right? Obviously, we know it's staged, and they were supposed to. He never quit, and that's set up like I never quit. My body gave up. It's like I never, never tapped out, right? And that was the whole that Nacho. It's a bus. Um, um, and I think that really set the stage of Austin getting this tough guy persona. Like he won't back down, he won't quit, he'll just keep fighting until he can't anymore. And I will rank it as one of the top five best WrestleMania matches. Um,
I agree.
um, just Austin in the sharpshooter, blood pouring down his face. You got JR saying he's wearing the crimson mask, right? Um, and then he had Ken Shamrock, right? The world's dangerous man as the ref. Not saying he played any type of role in there, but it had, like, with that match alone. If that match never existed in that WrestleMania, I would have to take that WrestleMania off this list. Like that really being not the main event, but it was the main event, and it happened midway through.
Yeah,
So, and that's really the only reason why I think WrestleMania 13 is on that, is because of Austin Bret Hart and the chemistry they actually did have in the ring. Um, I don't know if they really hated each other in real life. There's actually wrestlers that didn't like each other in real life, and they use that to their advantage when they wrestled in the ring. And then there's wrestlers that they acted like they hate each other, but they're best fucking friends eating at Denny's at 2 in the morning.
yeah.
Um, any thoughts with WrestleMania 13? Was that on your list?
It was on my list. My list is in order of like one through.
Oh,
You
mine's
know,
in no particular order, so I'm bouncing around. Like I
yeah, I
ranked
did.
them, but as far as like in order, but this is like, I'm not saying, I'm only going to say one I think is the best of the best, right? And I
Yeah,
think me and you will agree on that once
yeah.
we get to it.
Mine's not in an order of, oh, this is the best, this is the worst. It's more of one, two, three, four. That kind of that.
Right.
But so just by de facto of the number, it's like the third on my list.
Yeah. Mine, like I said, I didn't go no. I was just like yesterday, right? I was just like, WrestleMania this, WrestleMania that, and I wasn't going in no order. I was just spitting out like matches and cards, and I'm like, after 13, now people may disagree with me on this one, but I actually enjoyed WrestleMania 16. A lot of people like, right? And I think it's, number one, you had the first like fatal 4-way main event for the world title in WrestleMania history with a McMahon. Raz! Hey! Hey! Stella!
Hey, Ma, the meatloaf.
Meatloaf! Fuck! Um, but you had a McMahon in every corner. You had Shane McMahon in Big Show's corner, Linda McMahon in Mick Foley's corner, Vince McMahon in The Rock's corner, and then you had Stephanie McMahon in Triple H's corner, which Vince turned on The Rock to join with Triple H. But you had, it was an elimination fatal 4-way. So last man standing type deal, right? Last man surviving in the match. Um, I believe also not only that match, oh no, I didn't bring up that card. Shit, I forgot. Anyway, I enjoyed that WrestleMania. And it was the WrestleMania, like one of the last few WrestleManias that had like the small stage at the little WrestleMania over the entrance, right? Kind of transitioning um into what, the bigger stages as we know and now we know of for WrestleManias. I don't know if 16 made your list. I know a lot of people were skeptical on it. I thought it was decent. Because that was also Chris Jericho's first WrestleMania as well. That was WrestleMania 2000, they called it. Um,
But Yeah, the second I did, and for the record, for me at least, this is in a list of what I enjoyed more. It was like, okay, what set the stage? What uh, precedent did it set? Um, so the second on my list was WrestleMania 10,
Another good one.
10th anniversary, big matches. This dog, I swear to God. Um, and sorry, I got a old chamber playing in the background. Um, with, and again, Sean Razor stole that show. You know,
Yeah, the
um,
ladder match for the Intercontinental title.
and it was, and looking at the card, it's like it was just a good card all the way around too.
For a
Um,
mid '90s WrestleMania, it showcased the talent, a lot of the good talent that it had in the '90s. Um, I agree with that. Um, I totally blanked on WrestleMania 10. Not gonna lie. you know, I think like we talked about it a couple weeks ago, where that I talked about that ladder match and how that set, the precedence of ladder matches going forward. What people can do off the ladder, because Sean did, I think, the elbow drop and like a splash off the ladder on the Razor.
yeah, that's splash right off the top. It was, there were ladder matches before that, but none were as iconic as that one.
No, no, that's got a special place in ladder match history, right there. I think also, not to get off on a tangent, but those ladder matches, like they didn't use the ladder as a weapon. Um, we've seen in later ladder matches where they're setting it up in the corner, Irish whipping you into them, hitting you with the ladder. No one knew. Like, all they could say is, "Oh, this is gonna suck because this is a metal ladder and I'm landing on it from 15 feet in the air." Or,
Yeah,
um, my next WrestleMania, if you're done talking about 10, because I do.
yeah.
Oh, I gotta guess too. Um, if you're good. As I had WrestleMania 22 on there, right? They called it the big time. Kurt Angle was per Kurt Angle. They gave Mick Foley his WrestleMania moment.
And they're in Wi-Fi help.
And we're back. That was, I think, it was just a really good WrestleMania all around. Was 22 the card? You had the top talent on there. Um, it was like pushing into the ruthless aggression type because you had Brock wrestling. So I put it up there. It was a good card overall. I don't have the card on me to go through matches. I know, like, you had Edge versus Mick Foley in a hardcore match, which you know I think stole the show. Um, because I think they wanted to give Mick Foley his true WrestleMania moment. Um, because he worked a lot for the company and did anything the boss pretty much asked for. Hell, he got thrown off the cell. How he talked Vince into having that happen is beyond me, but it's like you never give the man his due. You let him hold the title 3 times for a stint of, like, I think he said something was like 80 something days or something with 3 title reigns, so it wasn't very long. So I don't even know if they viewed him as a true champion and being the top of the company. but he definitely, for what he did for the wrestling business as a whole, he deserved to have his moment, and he got that moment with Edge, at that WrestleMania.
My next one, since we already talked about 13, WrestleMania 18.
I
Uh,
yeah,
the
I didn't
main
have it
the
on
main
my.
event, of course, Rock Hogan, but the entire card was solid. And I know people give Austin Scott Hall a bad rap, but if that is the worst match on the card,
It's
that
Austin
says a lot.
Hall.
Yeah, you
I
know,
believe I believe that was true. That main event for the world title or undisputed title was Jericho versus Triple H.
and it was a culmination of like the invasion, see the
Right, and then you had
NWO on the friggin' not just a pay-per-view, WrestleMania.
and then you got Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hogan, and people not booing him. Like he
Yeah,
won, like he was supposed to be there going in as a heel, and people were so amazed. Like it's Hulk Hogan, how can you boo this man, right? And I found that like WCW, he was a good heel. Like he turned on it, and he's like, holy shit, he made a heel turn. And but WWF, where he started, no one could believe that he could go heel. And coming in as with the NWO, and when Vince came out, they got to, induce a lethal injection, right? That was the wording I believe he used. Inject with poison, right? He had to inject the business with poison. Give me one split second, I gotta get the pump going for gas, and then I'll be
all right,
right
dude.
back. I love these new tappy tap things on the pump now instead of putting the card in and out. Just beep.
Yeah,
Um, you know, and like I said, like I don't think The Rock or Hogan were expecting how the reaction was going to go, right? It started off as everyone cheering for The Rock. People started cheering for Hogan. And then halfway through the match, they started booing The Rock. Like it was a whole shift. Like The Rock just, you can't write Hogan versus Rock, right? Rock at that time, probably the most popular wrestler up there with Austin, right? Rock was the face of the company, and then you got Hogan. It's Hogan. You can't hate Hogan.
no, I mean now maybe you can, but
Yeah,
at that time you just kind of let them do their thing.
right. And like I swear to it, right? Like, yes, the match is scripted and all that, but when they're looking at each other and they both look across the ring at the crowd, I don't think that was a staged moment. I think that was like, we're getting the reaction. We got to kind of draw them in more. Like, holy shit! Like I think it was like a holy shit. Like they never heard that kind of reaction before
Yeah,
because you got
and
two of the biggest names in one match, right? And you just got this huge crowd going absolutely berserk, right? Because I never would have thought in my lifetime seeing Rock Hogan, let alone two times. And then, through that match, as you said, we saw the rebirth of Hulkamania,
and
right?
sorry to distract, but I'm gonna have to Google this later so to make sure. But Katie just texted me an image that Michelle Trachtenberg died. So I'll have to do Google, make sure it's true.
I'll make sure it's not true.
Or yeah, true or not true. Like, because like what?
I guess we'll always have Euro Trip.
Yeah. But anyway, like you said, sorry for that. Um, but yeah,
Little distraction.
um, that that match was in itself them looking both ways, like holy shit, this is the moment.
This is bigger than them. Like this was
Yeah,
bigger than them. Yes, they had that holy crap moment. Like I don't think they were prepared for that. I don't think anyone was.
no,
Right. And I could only imagine the reactions backstage when they both got back there and they kind of dropped the character, right? And be like, I could only imagine superstars lining up. Be like, hell, Hogan, you still got it for your eight, like, because he was, I think, just like in either his late 40s or just turning 50 at that point. I mean,
yeah,
Hogan was
like
no spring chicken when he came back for his second run.
no. And what's funny is we look at it now at like Edge and Cena, Randy Orton. They're all in their 40s, going into their 50s, right? And 20, 30 years ago, a 40-year-old wrestler is washed up, past his prime. He's hanging on to the glory, or she is hanging on to the glory. Now it's just like, eh, like, yeah, like it's not a second thought. You know,
No,
the Taker did it forever. Cena's on his last run, even though he hasn't been doing it for a couple years. You know, um, Randy Orton comes and goes. It's like give them their break. They come back. They relax, come back. Um, so Flair again has been doing it forever. Like, dude, relax before you die in the ring. But
I thought he was gonna I thought he was gonna collapse at his last match. Like he did not look like, obviously being 70 some years old, he didn't look like Flair.
no,
Jesus Christ, the pump is still going. I'm at $59. 59.66.
yeah,
It's not a. I spend about $100 a week in gas, maybe a
yeah.
little less.
I do about 75, but that's because I fill up with premium. Um, I try. I really try. If I go to empty or almost empty before I fill up, that's a rarity. I try to do it at least a third of a tank, so I don't got to worry about it.
Yeah, I filled up. I try not to get below a quarter when I fill up, but sometimes I do like to run it down where the gas light comes on just to kind of get everything really out.
Yeah.
At times, sometimes. Anywho, we were talking, wrestlers in their 40s. We were robbed, of Austin because he had to retire early. Austin had years left in the tank. Before, obviously with his neck and his knees and all that. Um, I want to get back on track with WrestleMania. Sorry, you're gonna pull in front of me too. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I got one left on my list.
I got a couple.
I thought we were
I
just
want
doing
to.
top
I would
five.
hope. Don't. Oh, sorry. I got to call. Like, I mean, I can cut one out, but it's just like I got 19 and 23 are my next two. Um, I'll go quick over 19. Just you don't got to agree. You had Rick. I believe that was um, you had the Rock Austin final meeting where the Rock finally beat Austin at WrestleMania, right? And then you also had
One
um, you had Brock
more
Lesnar
time.
doing this shooting star press off the top rope and landing on his head. Um, and then 23, I thought was overall a good card. Batista versus Undertaker. Undertaker winning the world title, keeping his streak alive. You had John Cena versus Shawn Michaels for the WWE title. Hair versus hair match. You had Bobby Lashley versus Umaga. Umaga, Umaga, Umaga. I think that's all he really yelled at was Umaga. Um, You know, and it took you to tell me that was Jamal from 3 Minute Warning.
You got 3 minutes.
You got 3 minutes, right? You know what I miss, Reggie?
Yeah.
HLA. Do you remember on Raw when Eric Bischoff had HLA?
Yeah, that was different times, man. Different times.
I know. We won't see that again, but it is what it is. And now we'll get to the final WrestleMania that you have, and I think we're going to agree on this. This is where I thought was the best of the best. I'm going to go out and say it. I thought WrestleMania 17 is the best WrestleMania of ever.
See, this is where for simply one match, the shock value of the match, I put WrestleMania 30.
Oh, wow.
The
Did
streak.
not see that coming. The streak. Oh, I wasn't thinking like that. The streak ended.
Good card all around, I thought. And again, I wanted to make sure. That's why I was looking at the match cards. Where I think 17, the main event would probably, you could say, nope, don't turn the point. Um, may have been better, but the whole card of WrestleMania 30 I thought was better. And then the streak ending.
And talking about the streak, I think you watched it too. I watched an Inside the Ropes interview with Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman threw like a little conspiracy theory in there. He's like, did what Brock Lesnar does, like he did what he wanted, right? Making $12 million a year in wrestling part time. Like, what happens if Brock Lesnar decided he's just gonna pummel the Undertaker for 30 minutes, right? Until Undertaker couldn't tap out, until Undertaker's like, all right, fine, pin me, right? And what were they gonna do? You can't fire the man. He just beat the streak. You
Yeah,
can't get mad at him. You can't get mad at him. You're like,
yeah, and I know they. Again, I saw interviews of with Taker, and everybody involved. Um, they were all like, "It's time." Taker was like, "It's time," and he was like, Vince brought it up to his attention. He was like, "Whatever you want," and I lost you, and we lost Joe. Hello, Joe. So anyway, I want to talk to you. Well, Joe's away. I want to talk to you about packs of wild dogs that control most of America's major cities, and he's back. I think maybe.
okay, we're back.
All right. So yeah, I
Yep.
was saying like the interviews with put like everybody involved. Taker's talking with Vince about the streak ending, and he was like, whatever you want." Like it's time. You know, I'm ready. Let's make it happen. And let's be honest, anybody besides Brock, I don't know if it would have been believable. You know, wasn't a fan of it, but you know,
I wish they would have kept it alive, but
me
you
too.
know they shouldn't have had Roman Reigns beat the Undertaker at WrestleMania. I didn't agree with that.
And
Um,
goes to show you Taker is he's a locker room guy. Once the streak is done, it's like, okay, we got to start building people.
yeah.
You know. So, any other manias you got?
When I was talking about 17, you know, you had the second coming of Rock versus Austin, where Austin sided with Vince McMahon, and the crowd didn't care. They couldn't boo Austin. Austin was the biggest star that WWF has ever seen, right? I think overall that card was amazing. You had TLC 2 on that WrestleMania, where Jeff Hardy getting speared off when he was hanging on the titles. I just, me personally, that was the first WrestleMania that had the big stage. In the Houston Astrodome, 60,000 fans. They made that WrestleMania big. And the promos leading up to it, too. Like, you had Limp Bizkit's song My Way with Austin and Rock. You know, I think just the build up to it was good. But now I got the WrestleMania talk out of the way.
Yeah, you also brought up the best bumps, and the first one I thought of: Angle versus Benoit in the cage. Angle moonsaults off the top,
And Benoit moves.
and all you see is Angle hit the mat and bounce. That was, and that's my first match that includes Angle. I have two.
Poor Angle.
How about you? I believe that was the Monday Night Raw on June 11th, 2001.
Wow, you went real. I mean, I have a bump. I have to go up there with Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton when Jeff climbed the one of the poles up there on the stage and did a swanton from like 30 feet in the air onto Randy Orton. Yes, I understand there was padding and all that, but you to jump 30 feet and to land on somebody. It's like the angle thing in the cage. Like, okay, the spot is this angle. He's gonna move, so this is you, all you. Like, there's gonna be nothing. There's nothing absorbing this but you. Same thing with Jeff. I mean, you can have all the mats down in the world. You're jumping from 30 feet. You're gonna be feeling something. You're taking a. That's a big bump. Um, So I have Jeff Hardy for that bump, and Jeff Hardy's on my list a few times, just because he was fucking insane.
My second that popped into my head almost immediately: Angle versus Shane McMahon, King of the Ring 2001. Shane going through the
Yeah,
glass.
where they had the wrong glass. It was supposed to be sugar glass,
Yeah,
and they put real glass, so it didn't break. So the first time he tried to suplex him through, he bounced off. It's like, oh man. And Angle broke his tailbone in that match when he did that. The first suplex he did, because they both came down hard. I mean,
yeah,
the guy throwing, you're taking a bump too. You're landing on you're landing steel and whatever.
yeah.
Um, I have to give recognition where recognition is due. Little Spike Dudley.
Spike
Um,
Dudley was a walking friggin' bump machine. Poor
well,
Spike.
there was one bump where he was talking with Taker when Taker was in his big evil phase, where It was for the hardcore title. It was a hardcore title match. Bleh, on Monday Night Raw, and obviously Taker won. But then after the match, Taker choke slammed him from the ring to the outside of the ring, and you've gotten the wind knocked out of you. You played sports, and like you heard, like those mats on the outside of the ring aren't that thick. You heard him like splat. You heard the air leave his body.
I'm
Like it
pretty
might
sure
not
you
have been
heard
a
his
big,
soul leave his body.
like it may not have been a big bump, but just seeing him, like he's already, the ring is 3.5 feet off the ground, right? Okay. Taker's 6'10", and now he's got you up here. And you're like, oh, you're gonna go out here now. So you're
The,
falling 10 feet onto your back.
the 3 feet for the ring, the 6 feet for 7 feet for Taker, and then the 4 feet of his arm.
And him
And
just
you're only
going,
like 6 inches.
and you just hear like, oh man, and like Spike Dudley needs to have an asterisk. Like he was so light that people, you throw him anywhere, and people did. Like them getting thrown out of the ring, thrown onto people. Like it was just, I guess, Spike Dudley deserves a special place. If there was like ever a bump Hall of Fame, he should be right in there, first ballot. Like, 100%, right?
No doubt. My third that. Oh. Hi. So yeah, my third, and I'm gonna go a little out. I'm going outside of WWE, and anybody of our generation knows it. New Jack versus Vic Grimes in XPW. Not only
When New Jack throws him off.
First he tases him on top of the friggin' ladder, on top of the scaffolding, but then he throws him off through the tables, and he hopes he dies, and he
Yeah,
grinds.
New Jack came out. New Jack said he was trying to kill him.
Yeah. And New Jack is New Jack, and he is fucked up, or he was. May he rest in peace. Don't want to speak too well of the dead, but it's fucking New Jack. I don't trust my life in New Jack's hands.
As soon as you said outside of WWE, I knew exactly where you were going. Because they had some beef outside the ring.
Yeah, this was the rematch. Their first match, which could have also gone on the list, when New Jack goes to throw him off from the sign, the entrance, and Vic grabs him, and Jack lands on his head and completely screws up New Jack. This was the revenge.
Yeah, and New Jack took it personal.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But he was, like, may he rest in peace, but he wasn't exactly right up here,
Yeah.
There was something snapped.
Yeah.
You
could say that he wasn't the best person to begin with, but
well, that didn't make it any better.
So your next one.
I got Rikishi getting choke slammed off the cell into the back of the truck. And I got Rikishi on a little side note too, because he did a splash off a cage as well. But him getting choke slammed, that's a 400-pound dude.
Yeah, not
going. Obviously it was a truck with hay in it, but I mean, if you ever played in a barn with hay, now there could have been a mat under there, I don't know, but hay itself is not the greatest padding, especially if you're falling from 15 feet and you're 400 pounds. it's I don't think they thought that through. Thankfully, he was all right, but that was a big bump for a big man to take.
Yeah, from another big man.
Right, and then Rikishi doing the splash. I forget who his opponent was, but you saw Rikishi like you see him like he's got to do it, and then after he does it, he's rolling around in the ring like he fucking immediately regretted that decision because no one won with that. His opponent took 400 pounds of Rikishi. Rikishi took 400 pounds of Rikishi. No one won. I mean, the crowd may have won,
Yeah.
but that was another big bump from a big guy. Like, and that kind of made Rikishi. I mean, it's like you don't see that. He's like, I think that was his moment, right? His not his crowning achievement, but his big moment was like, you know what? No 400-pound man has jumped off a cage and delivered a splash. That's gonna be me.
Yeah. And he nailed it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's his opponent, who is now a little thinner.
Now, speaking of Hell in the Cell,
Uh huh. I know where we're
I
going.
couldn't bring myself to not put this on my list.
Oh no, it's got to be on the list.
Mankind getting thrown up to Cell
Yep,
and then through the Cell.
yep. It's got to be
That
on it.
was an automatic.
Number one, because now he got hurt
Oh,
both
got fucked up.
times, but then he came back. His dislocated his shoulder. He's like, nope, I'm still fighting. It's like Jesus. Like, how tough is this guy?
Yeah. Or how dumb. There's a fine line sometimes between tough and dumb.
Oh yeah. Same with bravery and dumb.
But since that one was kind of the automatic, I'll go right to my number 5 because we talked about Mankind and Taker in that cell till we were blue in the face. This was kind of like the fun one, the fun pick for me. Bubba putting Mae Young through a table.
I forgot about the Dudleys doing that, power bombing women through tables. The May funny story about the Mae Young, like I obviously Bubba Ray came out and said it in like podcasts, like he's like he goes to because she's obviously 80 years old at this time. And he's like, look, I'm gonna take everything. I'll take all the impact. I'm gonna put you down as gently. And she's like, you fucking slam me through that goddamn table. And he does the power bomb and he says, yeah, I did the power bomb. She squeezed my hand saying I'm all right, and then she farted on him.
And I don't care what anybody says. That team up of Mae Young and uh, Moolah, Mae Young was the shining point of that friggin' team. Because when more stories come out, Moolah wasn't exactly a great person. So,
No, May Young could have done without like everyone wants to see my puppies kind of thing. They could have.
so your last ones here. What are we looking at?
Jeff Hardy doing the leg drop in the Money in the Bank match at WrestleMania 23 through Edge through the ladder. No one won on that.
Jeff got hurt. Edge got hurt. The ladder got hurt.
Uh,
Everybody was hurting.
and Jeff Hardy in general doing swantons off ladders, either through a table onto an opponent or through a table because then the opponent moves. So he's like, he was fearless. If I got to, he's taking a lot of serious bumps. Like I give it to Mick Foley because he's a big guy taking some big bumps too. But Jeff Hardy was doing it almost on a regular basis.
Yeah,
Um,
at least Mick knew to do it sparingly.
Jeff Hardy did it because he's like, I'm the daredevil, I'm the high flyer. I mean, remember when he did the whisper in the wind off the cage onto Umaga? Like, it's
And
just
respectfully, with as many times as he's done, it's no wonder he got you know addicted. He was probably in so much friggin' pain. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You got any more? Because I don't
Any
want to cut
more
you off.
bump? Um, well, off the top of my head, I had mine written down and I memorized them. Off the top of my head, I mean, how about the bumps that Shane McMahon's taken over the years? Um,
And that King of the Ring was him going through the glass was the first one I thought of, but him doing that
you know,
elbow drop.
elbow drop, him against Steve Blackman, where he hit him with the kendo stick and he fell off. And then recently, more recent, him jumping off the cell 2 years in a row and trying to do the elbow drop through the announcement table. You know, Shane was no spring chicken when he did that. He was like he's like late 40s, early 50s, and he's jumping off a 20-foot cell. They made the cell bigger and taller, and he's like, I still want to jump off of it. I'm like, do you?
We don't want you to.
Like, it was already bad enough. Like, I'm glad they made the cell safer, right? For more, like, if you want to get on topic and support. Because me and you could both say, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, that second Hell in a Cell match where you got 600 pounds of man up there and the thing's going, like, like both of them could have came through at any time under the ring without even doing a bump. Like,
Oh yeah.
so, you know, other bumps, I mean, um, here's a bump. It was a, botch type bump, but Um, ladder match for Hardy Boys. I believe versus Eminem, where Joey Mercury ate the ladder after Jeff Hardy did the leg drop onto it.
Oh yeah, it bounced back and hit him in the face.
Yeah, and like just fucked them all up, right? Um, I give it to Joey Mercury because it fucked him up, right? I mean, it was legit. But I give it to Jeff Hardy because he's landing on the ladder on the ring. Like, he didn't land on his feet. He landed on his ass on a metal ladder on a hard ring. Like, it's like
It's got
again,
no give to it.
again with Jeff. Like, he did it for the fans. He did it for the business. Um, you know, there was one bump Undertaker took. I believe it was at like Armageddon 2008 versus Mr. Kennedy. And I saw a quick snippet where Taker always liked to go out, way before the venue started, right, to scout the stage. And him and Vince are out there, and Taker sees this platform on top of the stage, right, the castle, whatever it was for Armageddon that year. And he's like, huh. It's like, that's kind of big and flat. He's like, what's that for? And Vince had this silence. He's like, for you. And he's like, what? And he's like, Mr. Kennedy's going to throw you off that. It's like, wow.
Why are you telling me this now?
Because if you would have told him any earlier, you give Taker no time to say no. He told him, he found out the day of he was getting thrown off of that. So give it to Taker for taking a bump. He was in his 40s then. I mean, yeah, he was muscular, but I mean, taking a decent bump, I mean, it was no easy feat, because it is depending on both wrestlers, how you flip, making sure you land on your back, right? There was one that wasn't I guess you can call it a bump. What about where Taker did his suicide dive over the top rope and Shawn Michaels moved the cameraman in the way, but the cameraman didn't catch Taker and Taker pretty much came down on his head?
Yeah, that poor cameraman.
I mean, fuck the cameraman. He fucked up.
Now, the thing that popped into my head this morning on the way home, and it's because I saw a picture of him this morning before I took Katie to work. Most underrated slash unappreciated wrestler.
Re-
And I thought about that because I saw a picture of Santino Marella in TNA. And I'm like, as much as I always say our truth is a national treasure, and I'm starting to feel the same way about Otis. Like I would love to see an Otis R Truth tag team, just for pure comedy factor. Um, but then I was like, I was going back and I was seeing like videos, reels on Instagram or TikTok of Santino talking about Rodney the Piper. Just
oh, like botching the names. Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, you know what, Santino is kind of I wouldn't say he's forgotten about, but people are you say his name and he appears, and people are like, oh yeah, shit, no shit, Santino. And it's like so there are times I think he's completely underrated, underappreciated because he was hilarious
That was
and he
their
was
like.
talented.
He took advantage of the PG era, right? Because obviously they went that route and they couldn't do other things, and he would dress up as Santina, right?
And women
Santino's
winning the
sister,
women's rumble or something.
still lost. Um, um, most underappreciated wrestler, man. That's um, when you got to give somebody his due. And now I think he's really appreciated, but at the time, I have to give it to Mankind. Um, because what he did for the business. Right now, he's appreciated. It's like you did a lot, right? But for the time when he was with WWF and WWE, like no one saw him as mid. Everyone only saw him as mid card, right? Always mid card. And he said in numerous interviews, like he always made the most of the matches. He wasn't the greatest wrestler towards the end, right? So he did big moments to overshadow that. We saw that with the Hell in a Cell match, right? And I think that's what really made him kind of be like, no, Mick Foley at the time, right, was the national treasure, right? Right, the Hell in a Cell put him really on the map. I mean, I'm not gonna deny that, right? I mean, you had his street fights, you had him one year where he entered the Royal Rumble 3 times as the three faces of Foley, right? That was all funny. Um, he had the one street fight with Triple H back in the day when he was Cactus Jack, and then he brought him back, right? And I don't think anyone really appreciated him, the fan wise, like wrestlers did, because they knew all the history of him. But as far as like, I don't think Mick Foley got over until after that Hell in a Cell match, and until then he was really underappreciated.
Yeah, it's like the people growing up, the older people that watched it, WCW in like the 80s and early 90s, knew Mick Foley and knew Cactus Jack, right? And then when, it's one of those times where it's almost like he was like at the tip. It gave Mick Foley new life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And he, Mankind was kind of like you said, looked at as mid card, but then Mick Foley was given the opportunity to be himself in a way. Bringing back Cactus Jack, giving him a chance to do Dude Love in on the grandest stage of them all, so to speak. It it gave Mick Foley new life and made him. Everybody looks back at Mick Foley and loves him now.
Like you can't help but like what he did for the business, like um, you know, he wasn't the greatest wrestler, right? One of the moments I remember from Mick Foley was when they had the halftime heat match, him versus Rock in the empty arena during the Super Bowl, and him pitting the Rock with a forklift to win the title, right? Um, he also beat Triple H. I remember when he won a triple threat match. It was a SummerSlam match. and he won the title in the triple threat match. And the next night, Triple H demanded the rematch, and he held JR captive, and he broke JR's arm.
Yeah,
Right?
still real to me, damn it.
Huh?
Still real to me, damn it.
Oh, dude, if that, like, I think I remember, like, you remember when like Kane was or no, there was somebody in the casket, and Triple H came out with a sledgehammer. I think it was Kane, and Triple H started beating this casket with the sledgehammer. Like, I remember watching that. I was watching it with my eye, like my hands covered my eyes. Like, I was like, "Holy shit, there's somebody in there!" And Triple H is just going off on this casket, right? And not knowing if the casket was reinforced or not. But then they open it up and Kane's just like, ugh. Like, I could only imagine if a couple of those shots, like, he's thinking his head's like, man, what the fuck, Hunter? Take it easy.
Yeah, bro, seriously, I'm in here.
Like, I gotta live through this, and Triple H is just fucking all roided out, fucking.
It's like, calm down, Hunter. I got to be at work tomorrow. Don't forget.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, that's all. I hope people enjoy this episode. Oh,
But so I know you're at work, and we've been on here for an hour.
I don't know. I enjoy
Um,
it.
so
Oh,
let you know next time because we might be moving apartments here. So next week or so might be a little hectic with the move. So
no, take your time.
and online and other things, and I'll fill you in on that maybe after tomorrow. But and so yeah, till next time, bud. I appreciate
Till
it.
next time. Yep. Stay in touch.
And, and if you have any future ideas, I'm for it.
No, no, I'll shoot them your way, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
All right, man.
It's just
All right, deuces.